Thank you for attending our webinar, Real World Use Cases, PowerApps and Power Automate. So we're joined today by myself, which is Hugh Valentine, and we also have Dougie Wood, one of our lead developers on as well. So today we're going to cover off some real world use cases for PowerApps and Power Automate that we've seen across our clients. So the kind of topics we want to cover off, we'll do an introduction so people join in. What is the Power Platform? What does it mean for you guys? What are the licenses involved? We'll then kind of move on to our applications. So we've developed some out-of-the-box applications to make it very easy for people to start to use them, and they're kind of generic applications that every customer would usually have, like leave request expenses, that kind of thing. We're then going to jump into some live customer case studies. So these are actual projects that we've worked on, and we're going to talk through where people are actually using PowerApps and building their own applications and how we can help with that. We'll then move on to remote workshops, and we'll cover off kind of useful resources, and at the end there'll be time for Q&A. So if you have any questions, you should be able to ask the questions as the webinar goes on. You can just post them into the Q&A feature, and at the very end we'll then answer those questions. So Dougie, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys, my name is Dougie. I'm one of the senior consultants at Valto. I head up the Power Platform team, so we're the guys that would be sort of delivering solutions related to all the Power Apps, Power Automate, Power BI and things like that. So if we could just go to the next slide. So when we're talking about Power Apps, Power Automate and things like that, what we're talking about is business applications. Now, everybody in their day-to-day life at home is used to already using modern applications. So whether that's like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, or all those different things, we're all very familiar with using these kind of modern applications at home. However, when we then move forward and go into the sort of work day, so we go to the next slide, please. When we go into the work, we then revert back into old ways of working, whether that's with bits of paper or old clunky kind of systems, and it's not really meeting the sort of demand of our sort of employees. So they're used to using applications and modern technology at home, and when they come into work, they've got these old sort of clunky systems, whether it's based on paper or whether it's old sort of legacy systems. And going forward, business applications makes it a lot more efficient, and makes you more competitive against your competitors, so that you can be more effective with what you're sort of delivering on a day-to-day basis. So what is it that businesses actually want? So accessing company data anywhere on a mobile device. Now, again, everybody's used to accessing like their mobile their mobile banking data and things like that from mobile phones. They're used to accessing their personal emails on mobile phones. They're used to getting all of their digital information mobile and being accessed anywhere. And that should be the same in their work life as well. They should easily be able to access their documents, their emails, all of that from mobile devices. We're wanting zero downtime, so the ability to make sure that things like your servers aren't going down all the time, and providing cloud infrastructure means that you are getting that reliable kind of continuity, that your applications are going to be there and available when you need to use them. Solutions that evolve and can scale with us. So you want to be able to have applications which aren't just designed for sort of one team, but that can be scaled and become enterprise level as well. So being able to roll things out, and then if all of a sudden other departments want to use them, it's nice and easy to do that without having to then fork out for a lot of additional cost and space and servers and things like that. Saving money and time and taking advantage of the cloud. So again, building on this kind of cloud infrastructure is going to save a lot of time and i.e. money along with that. So you haven't got all the responsibilities of maintaining servers and things like that. Secure access to files and business tools from anywhere to better serve your sort of customers. So again, whether that's you're traveling and you've got consultants and salespeople going out and about, and they've got tablets and they need to be able to interface with people and input data there in front of them, rather than scribbling on pieces of paper which inevitably get lost and not the right information is being captured. PowerApps and the Power Platform can provide solutions for those kind of things. Tools that help us work together and be efficient. So making things more streamlined and automated and staying connected across locations. So again, if you're out and about or on the road and things like that, and you need to be able to have applications which your sort of frontline workforce are using, all of this is possible. And protecting your data. So it's very important to be able to protect your data from sort of viruses and sort of general kind of hackage and leakage. And all of that is possible within the sort of security and governance elements of our Power Platform solutions. And consistent access across devices. So applications which are not just built for mobile use, but you can use them on tablets, you can use them on your computer, you can use them on any multiple different devices. Okay, next slide, please. So what is the Power Platform? So when I'm talking about the Power Platform, there are some key products which make up the Power Platform. The first is PowerApps. So the PowerApps is the application development platform. So this is where you can very quickly develop applications which are what used to take maybe months to create. So things like expense systems, leave request systems, things like that will take months to create in a traditional kind of app development approach. Now only take a matter of weeks, sometimes even days for very basic applications. And PowerApps provides that front interface. The next product which goes along with that is Power Automate. And our Power Automate is the process automation element of that. So that allows for things like approval processes, automating response emails, or moving documents between different things. We then have Power BI, which is business analysis. So this then looks at the data that you've captured through your applications and automated and had approvals and things like that, and then provides graphs, reports, KPIs, all based on that information. And then some new products which are coming to the Power Platform, things like Power Virtual Agents. So this is intelligent virtual agents, i.e. bots, which are going to be able to interact with not only your internal sort of employees, but external customers as well. So if they've got sort of initial questions and things like that, so maybe it's they want to find out a bit of information about your products, they can ask this kind of virtual agent, which is programmed with a load of kind of responses and things like that, and then it can pick up on, okay, well maybe this customer now wants to transfer to actually that is a potential lead or an opportunity, and you can then automate things like getting a calendar booked with one of your salespeople to follow up and give a full demonstration of the product. So all of these sort of Power Platform elements can be used on multiple different devices. We've also got things like Canvas PowerApps, which are basically a way of digitally transforming your business process with low code. So they're nice and easy to put together. They're very visual things, so it's all about designing and sort of creating things which are simplistic and easy to use, rather than sort of a complicated coding or sort of programming to set these up. A lot of these Canvas apps can be sort of built with very easy drag and drop kind of functionality, and the almost like the low code we're referring to in the background is very much like Excel. So it's just like Excel formulas. So again, supporting these applications, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to have a full IT development department to support these. Quite often, we work with people who are from, say, like operations or finance backgrounds, where they're already familiar with using Excel formulas and find it very easy then to support these Canvas apps. The next type of app is a model-driven Power App. So these integrate with business data in a mobile-friendly way. So these are actually quicker to set up than your Canvas app because all the components of these are pre-built. So it's much more like an interactive kind of graph. We can have pie charts and all these different things which plug in onto one page. So the benefits are it's much quicker to set up. And it's actually leveraging the sort of Dynamics framework as well. So if you're already using Dynamics 365, all these model-driven apps can plug directly into those And they're sort of quick and easy to set up the sort of the user interface of that, and it's automatically got things like responsive designs and things built into that application. Next slide, please. And then Power Automate is all about improving the efficiency by automating manual tasks. So it means it's nice and easy to create automated workflows through Power Automate. You might have already heard of this product, and it was previously called Flow. It's recently changed to Power Automate. It's nice and easy for a sort of simple drag and drop kind of interface. You can create automations which not only work with Office 365 data, so your emails, your documents in SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams, but it also can connect to third-party things as well. So whether that's Zendesk, Salesforce, or even connecting through sort of custom APIs to work with things, all of that is possible to automate. And in that example that we're looking at there, it's a very simplistic flow, which is showing you how when we receive a form entry from Microsoft Forms, it's then going to post a notification about that into our team to make our team aware of that. So they're nice and easy to set up, nice and easy to create. So I'm just going to hand over to on the next slide to Hugh, just to talk a bit more about the licensing of this.
Thank you, Dougie. Yep, so the kind of licensing that is available, we kind of have two plans. Now, for most of the people that are joining today, you'll very much likely have an Office 365 subscription, and there's a hell of a lot we're able to create with the Office 365 subscription included in this PowerApps Plan 1. So generally, if you're happy to use only Office 365 data, so we can use things like SharePoint as the data source, Excel, store things in OneDrive, and very much contain everything within Office 365. We're able to build lots of Canvas applications, which Dougie had showed, and we're able to get quite a lot of productivity and services around that. Now, what's not included in the PowerApps Plan 1 is what we call premium connectors. So this is things like integrating with SQL databases. It's things like using DocuSign. So a premium connector generally is anything that's connecting outside of the Office 365 environment. What we can't do with the PowerApps Plan 1 as well is interact with the common data service. So if we need to interact with that, we then need to look at kind of what the PowerApps Plan 2 licenses are and what they provide. So there's two types of models. There's a per app plan. So it's £7.50 per app per month. So for every single app that you want to create that has common data service and the premium connectors in it, we would need to look at licensing this for every single app. We then have a per user plan. So effectively, once you get past two applications, this plan will become more effective, or 2 or 3 applications, the per user plan will become more cost effective. And what that will enable us to do is run an unlimited number of applications. So the kind of PowerApps Plan 2 is utilized when we want to look at things like PowerApps portals. We might want to look at things like the common data service, and we might want to start looking at the premium connectors that we have available. And that's where these plans will come in. The projects we're going to show today, we're going to go through some of our pre-built applications, which are all built using the PowerApps Plan 1 licenses. So if you have Office 365, you'll probably be able to run them. And then some of the customer examples will be a mixture of both PowerApps Plan 1 and PowerApps Plan 2. So Valto have been building a number of pre-built applications. So these are basically when we identify something that pretty much all companies would utilize. So we've started building applications for project management. We have some leave request and expenses systems, which we'll jump into and show you a live example for. Our newest pre-built application is a vehicle inspection one. We have an auditing app, and we started to build a suite of additional HR products like appraisals and new starters and leavers. So if we jump into an example of some of the applications that we've developed. So most of the applications that we've developed are basically supporting our SharePoint intranet solution. So when we first log into this page, we can see here we've got links to different systems. So we have a policy system that's been built on SharePoint, not using PowerApps. We then have lots of other applications, and we kind of use SharePoint as the driver then to get people to find these applications. So you can see here we have leave request as an example. So the first example is the leave request system. It uses PowerApps Plan 1, so it can be used on all of Office 365 subscriptions. The first page that we come into is basically a help page for the user. So it has things like the leave request information. We've got a link to the app. We've got policy information, so we can explain to the users how to update the system. They can look at their applications. They can see a calendar on here, and it basically is just a dashboard to all things related to the leave request system. The actual app itself can be run on any type of device. So we could run this on a mobile device if I was out and about and on the move. And when we come into the page, we've basically got a list of all my holidays that I've requested, whether they're approved, rejected, and the details on the right-hand side. If I want to create a request, I'm able to come into this system here, and I can choose the type of holiday that I'm going to create. So I could use holiday, sickness, authorized absence, and we've built this system so we can customize and add new categories for each company that require them. We can then jump in and kind of choose the select dates. So I can say I'm going to book a holiday, and you'll see here on the right-hand side, it's deducting how many days I've got, what my current balance is, and if I was to take this holiday, how many days I'd have left. The system automatically deducts weekends, so it can work on weekdays only. I can book full days and half days, and if I'm a manager, I can also book on behalf of one of my members of staff as well. So all of that's kind of built in. When I hit the submit request button, it'll use Power Automate to send an email to my line manager, and I can then stamp that change off and approve that, and then it'll add automatically to my Outlook calendar. Now, we've got a few different options down the left-hand side. The first one is leave balance. So we've made it really simple for a user to see how many days they've taken this year, how many days they've got available next year, and who their manager is or who the approver is for their holidays. We've also got company holidays. So this can be programmed with all of the bank holidays for the year. But if your company also does a mandatory shutdown, so you might shut down at Christmas and you might say that you need to use your holiday allowance around that, we can add those in automatically as well. And then when I'm booking the holiday, they'll automatically deduct from here. So this is kind of our first system. Obviously, it saves then organizations having to go out and buy another system. This would basically live inside their intranet, and they're able then to book all of the holidays from within here. The next kind of application that we have available is what we call our auditing application. So the auditing demo is basically an example of taking a manual process and then automating that and building a Power App form to replace this. So this organization is a manufacturing company. At the end of every shift, they're supposed to do an inspection and an audit. So that inspection is to say, right, I'm handing over from my shift. Here's all the things that the next person on shift would need to worry about. So the inspection portal on the first page has basically got another SharePoint homepage, which is laid out. We can see who the owners of this system are. We've got some news on there, which we can use to when there's updates to the apps or if there's a major issue. We have the ability to suggest an idea. So you can see here we have the ability for someone to actually suggest an improvement to the form. When we go into the process inspection application, we then have kind of this first page. So it's basically presenting the current date and the week number that we're in. We're able to choose new audit. And this previously on the end of the line was a piece of paper that the guy would fill in. So at the end of every shift, he'd fill in, is the line clean? He'd tick the boxes off. He'd then pass that to a person who would then transpose that into an Excel sheet. So obviously very paper-based, very manual, and takes lots and lots of time to update. Now they can come in, they've got a tablet at the end of the line. They're able to say, is the line clean, in order, and the working area and environment safe? They can choose select, and it then presents a list of checks that they should do before they can finish their shift for the day. So check there are no parts on the ground, check the lines clean, and so on and so forth. If they come across an issue, they can basically say that this is not okay, and it raises then a corrective action. So the intention of this is they can populate the details, who the owner should be. That could be automatic based on the next person on shift, and what the action is and what needs to be done. And that means that the next person, when they come on shift, they have a section here called View Actions. And they're able then to come into here and see all of the actions that weren't previously completed on the shift handover. And again, they can mark those off as complete. So that's kind of jumping into a kind of task management system that's very popular across our clients. We're able to tailor this example to your organization and build this for any audits and inspections that you guys would like. The system itself then has a backend. So back into the SharePoint homepage, you can see here I can jump into this audits page. And using SharePoint as the database, I can see every single audit that's happened, where that user had pushed yes, where the site was, and where it was created and the date and time. So we can track all of that information. All of the actions that were raised, we can jump into the actions section here. And we can see who's the action owner is, when it should be completed, and if that action has been completed or not. We've also got a report section. So very simple reports then on the page to show how many audits have been done this month and non-conformances versus conformances, how many actions have been completed, outstanding and pending sign-off, and finally, how many audits are being done on a monthly basis. So we can actually take that data very easily and then start to report on it. The actual audit system as well, we can integrate with Power BI. So those kind of reports I showed are very simple. Or perhaps you're already adept with Excel. We can choose this export to Excel option, and that'll take a live link to that Excel spreadsheet and allow you to update it and create reports and graphs from that area as well. We have various different applications. So as I mentioned, one of the newest ones that we've created is our vehicle inspection app. So the vehicle inspection app is available. We can jump into the vehicle inspection portal. So again, the intention of this application is if you have company vehicles, you are obligated to make sure that that check is completed on a weekly basis and make sure that the vehicle's safe, and you need to be able to audit and prove to people that you've been doing those checks. So the vehicle inspection form, we can come into here and choose new check. On the left-hand side, we've got the ability to search for vehicles. So if you're perhaps in a different vehicle to normal, you can choose and search for the vehicle you're looking for across the company's vehicles. On the right-hand side, it's automatically determined by vehicle because that's the one I use all the time. And then I can jump onto the next screen, which basically then has the government issued kind of guidelines. So this diagram will be familiar for anybody that's done it. And we've then got a list of all the checks that they need to go through. So if I was to choose brakes as an example, the brakes basically has a list of all the checks that we need to do on the left-hand side. So service brake, check that this is functional. Parking brake, check that that's working as well. We could take pictures through each stage. So if we would needed to take a picture of a tyre as an example, we could add that functionality in. And then on the right-hand side, we kind of have the check overview. So this is just kind of guiding the user to exactly what they should be checking and some more description around these tasks. So that's kind of another application, kind of one we consider off the shelf for organizations who are looking to fulfill this functionality. And we kind of say our off the shelf applications are kind of 80 to 90% of the application. And the last 10 to 20% is really tailoring that to your organization to make sure that it meets your needs and customizing it exactly how you'd want it to work. If you're interested in any of the other pre-built applications, then you can get in touch with our team and we can do a 45-minute overview and we can go through each of these applications in more detail and show you exactly how they work. So we now move on to some examples of actual clients that we've been doing, actual projects we've been doing for our clients. I'm just going to kind of talk through the project. So the first one we have in our list is a project we've done for City of London, specifically the gardening team within City of London. So they've got around 50 to 75 gardeners in total. And the idea of this application is that currently, similar to how the shift handover works, each of those gardeners should be able to go to each of the 100 to 200 locations in the City of London, and there should be a set list of checks that they need to do. So when they go to one park, it might be clean the rubbish, empty the bins, trim the bushes, all of that kind of thing. Whereas when they go to another park, there'll be a different set of tasks. And obviously it's very difficult in a paper-based format to be able to update those tasks and keep track of exactly what the gardener should be doing. And it's also then very easy for the gardener just to say that he's done it and potentially he hasn't done it. So the services we've used for this is a Canvas app. We've used Power Automate to drive a lot of the automations and the workflows. SharePoint Online has been used as the database. So this is all built using PowerApps Plan 1, no need for any additional licenses. And we were very quickly able to turn around a proof of concept to prove this would work. So it's around 20 days of development to get this off the ground. So this is kind of the first page that we come into, the loading page. And then the intention is that they can come into the application and they can basically choose from 4 different types of jobs. So this is designed to run on a tablet, and it's designed for a gardener who's just going to want to very quickly be able to tap what he needs. So this design of this has been very designed around the push and using your fingers to navigate around it. So what will effectively happen is they're able to select from a list of the locations. So you can see here we've got all of the available London locations, All Hallows by the Tower, Aldgate. They can search by the different boroughs across the top if they want to. They can just search quickly if they were looking for a particular area, or they can scroll down here through all the available sites and find the one they're looking for. Once they've selected one of the sites, they then choose what kind of job they'll be doing. So if they hit cleansing, that's going to start the routine, which I'll show you in a couple of slides, of all the tasks that they should do while they're at that location. So trim the bushes, empty the bins, etc. On the right-hand side, we've got a list of all the tasks. So as a gardener is at the location, this task list here is basically saying that there's been reported issues on there. So the bins have been spray painted with swear words. A panel in the fence requires nailing back on. So as well as their day-to-day kind of routine that they should be doing, they're also immediately presented with a list of other tasks that they should do. And if they revisit that site, if perhaps they need to get different materials, those are something they can work on and start to check them off. So once they're in the job itself, you can see here it kind of times when the job was started. It's got a timer in here, so as the guy's working, he could be working for 2 or 3 hours, and when he hits the finished button, that'll basically log how much time was spent on that site. So that means that the garden team, from an administration perspective, are then able to report on exactly how long these jobs take, and they can start to use that intelligence to speed up and perhaps allocate more resource for jobs that are taking much longer. They can also choose the issues log button. So if they come across an issue that they potentially can't fix at the time, you can see here they could take a picture, so they can capture a photo of vandalism that needs to be repaired. They can log the action and the type. So a type could be vandalism, it could be a broken item. There's lots of different categories they can pick from. They can put details. So on this one, the flowers have been destroyed, and they've got this kind of action yes or no. So this indicates whether they fixed the task while they were there, they cleaned the plants up and they put them in a good position, so there's no further action required. Or if they leave it to say action required yes, that means they will revisit this, and someone else on the next shift when they come back will see this in the open tasks then. That's kind of an example of the City of London project we worked on. We're now going to jump into another project that we've worked on for the FSA, which I'll hand over to Dougie.
Thanks, Hugh. So we worked on a project with the Food Standards Agency, the UK government. They were after a process that was all about tracking new applications of food types. They were already using things like SharePoint and a little bit of PowerApps and things like that. So they were looking for a bit of assistance in setting something up using PowerApps and Power Automate, which would be triggered by receiving an email from a web form. So they had a form on their public website, and when you filled out that form, that's what the trigger was to start off this process. It would then create inside of a SharePoint list an item, which would be sort of customized with PowerApps. We'll take a look in a moment. And this has a lot of customized functionality in it, allowing for things like tracking of statuses of the applications, sending out sort of alerts and sort of things like that to people to say, okay, you need to be progressing with this needs to happen at this certain point in time. And it also allowed for things like it would automate sending out a link to SharePoint to external parties so they could upload files and folders in a relevant time. So previously they were used to posting in physical CDs and sort of physical files like that, and it would take a long time just to extract that information and upload it and store it in a digital kind of way. Whereas with this streamlines that and allows you to upload in a physical digital location. So the services that we use for this were things like PowerApps, PowerAutomate, and SharePoint, what we're looking at now. So this was like the front face of the portal. So when they first came in to the app, this is what they would see. And it was designed with a little bit of an intranet look and feel so that they can see other things which are useful links and things like that going forward. Just go to the next slide for me, please. So the actual kind of database which was holding all of this information was a SharePoint list. Now this is roughly what it kind of looked like, where we can see all the kind of information, but different people had slightly different views of this. Now with those items inside of SharePoint, we then use PowerApps to customize the form of the actual item. So if you were to select one of those items and edit them, it would then look like this. So just go to the next slide, please. So once you edit one of the SharePoint items, we then use PowerApps to customize that. So you can see we've got different phases of the application. And when you click on one of those, they then take you to a sub page within inside that. So you could, for the first page, you'll then see maybe who's the risk manager, the risk assessor, and general information about the application. And then as you move forward and it transitions between different teams and different people, there'll be different information which we captured in a timely kind of manner. There was a kind of start-stop clock approach to this as well. So there were certain scenarios where you would almost have to put the application on hold, but there were certain commitments that they had to meet to say an application had to be processed within a certain amount of time. So they needed the ability to be able to pause that if they were waiting on something which was outside of their control. So if we just go through to the next slide. The app also had the ability to provide comments as well. So as people were working on this, they could easily post something in there as a comment to say, this is what I've been working on, this is what we're waiting on, X, Y, Z. And there was boxes at the top which allowed them to alert specific people. So per application, there would be a risk manager and a risk assessor. So there might be something that they wanted to alert the risk manager of as part of that post. They could select that box and click on post, and that would then alert them. Just go through to the next slide, please. And then there was also an alerts kind of feed. So this is where, imagine across the top where you've got that bell symbol and the speech mark symbol. The speech mark symbol would take you into that comments page, and the bell symbol takes you to these alerts. So this is more sort of making sure at each and every stage when the phases jump between different statuses, we're logging here exactly what's happened and when it's happened. So that when you go back, you can easily see an auditable kind of history about what's happened with this application and how we've got to this particular stage. Okay, so that was the sort of food standards agency app. The next one that I'm going to talk about was for Sony Music. So Sony came to us with an idea of an application that they wanted to create. And the idea was that they wanted to be able to surface all of their artist albums in a nice, easy to use kind of friendly format. It would allow them to see the details of the previous sort of publications and the albums that have previously been created. And the app would also allow them to calculate costs and plan for new album releases as well. So the client requested also that the app looked kind of retro and stand out from all the other kind of applications that they were using. So we decided with a few different designs and a couple of different sort of bits of feedback, we would go with a style that looked like a kind of retro Sony Walkman. So we'll show you that in a second. The services that was sort of used and the products that were used as part of this application was PowerApps. So there was a Canvas Power App, which we're going to show you in a second. There's PowerAutomate to automate certain sort of steps and alerts and things like that. There was Office APIs, which were integrating with sort of creating teams and things like that. There were SharePoint lists to hold a lot of the data. And there's also some Excel CSVs, which were sort of being used from other sort of teams to provide information that fed into this system. So if we go to the next slide. So this is what the application looks like. This is a Canvas app, which Sony referred to as Sonar. So it's designed to look kind of like an old sort of retro kind of Walkman, and you can select a particular artist from that list there, or filter or create a new kind of artist input into this. So just go to the next slide, please. And then there's a couple of different sort of steps. So once you're inside the kind of the artist kind of area, you'll then be able to go through and see all their previous kind of submissions and sort of information about orders and things like that. Just go to the next slide, please. So again, so this is where you can see kind of like an artist page, and you can scroll through, and those little dots across the bottom sort of indicate the sort of tabs of information that you can scroll through, and there's like a little button at the bottom right hand corner, which when you click on that would show kind of analysis about that particular artist. And you just go through to the next slide, and then the sort of final slide on this is kind of showing the sort of information about sort of the manufacturing and sort of mastering and things like that of the albums. So you can kind of go in there and you can sort of use this to sort of calculate what future costs would be if they were to order another 1 million albums or something like that. They can sort of calculate those costs and sort of create that all through this application interface. So yeah, next slide. Okay, I'll hand back over to Hugh, that's going to talk you through the Greene King solution.
Yeah, cool. Thank you, Dougie. So another big benefit of PowerApps is the capability of replacing legacy applications. So our client was looking to get some help with basically developing PowerApps knowledge. So they wanted the capability to start to be able to develop PowerApps, but they hadn't really had any experience with kind of developing them. So this application is a timesheet application. It was hosted on a very old server, 2003. And the aim was to build this application using the existing Office 365 licenses, provide them the capability to log the timesheets, and effectively decommission and replace that application. So we embarked on the project. We've going to provide training and development to show them how they can update this application going forward. There's around 200 users. And again, this one's built on PowerApps, Power Automate, and SharePoint Online as the back end. So again, lots of capability that we can do around this system. The application itself is quite very easy to update. So you can see here, we're able to select a project. So this feeds through from a master list of all the projects that exists in SharePoint. We can then choose a week. So we can choose this week or next week. We can then basically choose the type of project, the task that we're working on. So whether it's investigation, development, testing, and we can then simply add the time into the sheet here. So it's a very quick way of updating the time that exists and adding those line items in. And then you can basically add as many types of projects, as many types of tasks, and that can then submit for an approval process. So it can go to your line manager to stamp that changes off. And the final pieces of this project will be looking to integrate it with their financial system. So we can use something like Power Automate to automate that process. So that's a very simple application that was developed. So some of the kind of options we have around helping organizations get used to developing PowerApps. So we can help with doing workshops. So a workshop basically is transforming your idea about what a PowerApp would be and then making that a reality. So effectively what we can do within a PowerApps workshop, we can do a health check over the existing applications if you have any. So lots of our companies start to develop PowerApps and they start to encounter issues where the application can be very slow. They might start having performance issues or security concerns. So our health check would basically look over the current application and then start to make recommendations about what needs to be done to make this application develop to best practice. If it's a new application, we'll kind of talk you through the options and we'll start building out a specification. And that specification will include things like best practices, looking at the branding, getting the look and feel of the application as it needs to be from a usability perspective, but also to get your company colors in there. We'll look at user interviews. So again, if the app's not fully fleshed out, the user interview section's basically around gleaning the requirements out from the different user groups and transforming that into what the actual scoping and requirements for the document would be. And quite often within a PowerApps workshop, we'll also look at the other services that this might tie into. So you might want it to tie into Microsoft Teams to make it easily accessible for people. You might want to utilize SharePoint. So that's again using the database backend, but you might want to build a portal like an intranet or a app page for it. And then we can look at things like Power BI to pull the reports out the back end of this as well. We do lots of different types of workshops. So the PowerApps development one, we've kind of just covered. In our previous session, we talked about building a PowerApps strategy and governance. So anybody that's interested in looking at that can find it on YouTube. But we can help you guys build a strategy and governance model to help your organization really develop applications internally and put that structure in place for people. And then we do lots of others to do with security, power automation, Power BI, all of that kind of areas where our skill set lies. We've got some useful links. So on our YouTube channel, we've got a whole host of videos that we've been added now. So that's videos around like the governance ones, Microsoft 365 security. So I'd really recommend that you jump onto our YouTube channel and subscribe there. And then we kind of got the roadmap, which shows the upcoming changes, and the security center. So those are very useful areas to get started and understand what PowerApps can deliver and what's coming in the roadmap as well. We've now got time for questions and answers. So perhaps, Dougie, if we go over to yourself, is there any questions that are available?
Yeah, so there was a question around sort of can Canvas apps replace spreadsheets, i.e. sort of budgeting spreadsheets and things like that. So yeah, definitely that can be created with a Canvas app, and the benefits of that is not only you're replacing the kind of database element of the spreadsheet, but you're also customizing the interface as well. So it makes it nice and easy for people on mobile devices, mobile phones, tablets, things like that, to input that information, and then it can do all the things automatically, like the auto calculating of certain sort of fields and things like that, any sort of complexities related to sort of currencies or exchange rates and things like that, those can automatically be programmed in, or even pulling from sort of live calculations and things like that. So yeah, definitely all of that sort of stuff is possible.
Okay, cool. Another question that we have here, Dougie, is do we provide ad hoc support for PowerApps development for organizations that have started an app and then are looking to get some help around it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have a number of customers who subscribe to that kind of process. So sometimes we get involved in sort of projects from day one. Sometimes we're sort of brought in as kind of like to sort of bridge sort of skills and knowledge gaps and things like that. But definitely, yeah, I've got a number of customers where I might have a call with them maybe for a couple of hours a week, something like that, where we sort of check in and see how they're getting on. Anything they're stuck with, we sort of jump on board with. And definitely this whole PowerApps kind of thing is Microsoft are trying to aim at what they've referred to citizens and developers. So it means that you don't have to be a codey techie to get started with this. You can get started with it and then reach out to our team for any sort of ad hoc assistance and support.
Cool, thank you. Another question that's popped through is, what have you seen any systems that help with visitor management on PowerApps?
Yeah, definitely. So people might have seen before, when you go into kind of like an office or something like that, like a reception area, that you get like an iPad or something like that drilled on a wall, and typically when you sort of click on that, it would then say sort of, who are you, who you're here to see, take a photo of you. But we've created a Power App which does something very similar to that. So it takes your photo and things like that, but it'll also then send an email to the person that you're there to see. Send the photo of the visitor so they can check to see who you are and all the rest of it, and letting them know. I think
I've got a quick example of that one. I can jump up now.
Oh, brilliant. So good stuff.
This first page here is we've embedded the Power App on the page, but you can see here effectively we've got the Power App on there. This whole thing in the grey would be designed to run on a tablet in reception. We can then come in and hit the check-in option, which, as Dougie mentioned, allows us then to put details about the visitor, their name, their phone number, the company, who they're visiting, and they can take a picture of themselves. Some organizations we've built this for, we split it in half and half, where we've got the detail about the user on the left, and then we've got kind of the company instructions on the right, so like the health and safety notices, and some organizations even use a little section to put news to try and put positive items on there. When you hit submit, it'll notify the person you're visiting that there's a visitor in reception. And then on the right hand side, we've got a database which potentially you can use to automatically fill your presentation software in reception to say, here's today's visitors. And then obviously you've got an auditable list of all those as well. Okay, any other questions, Dougie?
There's a question saying, what's the best way to get started? So I guess as a kind of novice of getting started with PowerApps and things like that, I'd recommend that if you have Office 365 set up, if you go into anywhere like PowerApps or sort of Power Automate, there's a number of different templates and things like that. There's even a PowerApps template for getting started with PowerApps. So it will kind of show you some of the sort of building blocks and things like that that you can use. And same with Power Automate, there's a whole host of hundreds, if not thousands, of different templates that you can use. And again, some of these are building blocks, so it might be 80% of a particular process that you might be able to leverage and jump on, and then sort of customize that to sort of flesh out exactly what it is you want to. But if you're sort of definitely trying to learn and teach a little bit of yourself to start with, looking at those templates are a great way to get started.
Okay, perfect. I think that's all of the questions that we've had. Just give people a last opportunity to post any additional questions. But thank you very much for joining, guys. I hope you found the session informative. And if anybody's interested in booking a further demo or looking at any more items around PowerApps, just get in touch. Okay, thank you.